I feel like the Vikings Green Bay game proved me right and proved me wrong. Right? In the first half of that thing, Jordan Love looked absolutely awful. They're just getting run out of the building. Like, we're sitting here, it was almost like the Georgia-Alabama game. Like, it was absolutely embarrassing. And then all of a sudden, you look up 10 minutes later, and Jordan Love is hot, and you've got a close game here. The Vikings pull out a 31-29 win where Green Bay scored 22 points in the fourth quarter. And Jordan Love, who had 3 picks in this game, and the numbers looked abysmal, actually finishes with okay numbers, but this was a little bit of what we've seen in Jordan Love's entire career put into one game. Like, Jordan giveth, Jordan taketh away. So, like, there's this moment for me where I'm not sure what to expect. I know everybody talks about having to knock the rust off and all of these things. We just make a lot of excuses for why, particularly so far in the 2 games we've seen Jordan Love this year, he's been inaccurate to me.
Honestly, I mean, this is probably unfair. You could correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I just kind of throw out the fourth quarter because we see it happen, and it shouldn't happen. I get it. These guys have been getting paid millions of dollars. They should never let down. But when you're up that much and you are just killing a team, you just have a tendency to fall asleep. You're like, we got this one. We're fine. And all of a sudden, a guy like Jordan Love can get hot and put it on you real quick, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, my God, we got to recover this onside kick or we might blow this game. I don't even look at the fourth quarter. Good for Jordan Love to get hot. He did look rusty in the first 3 quarters, but a lot of that just had to do with the Vikings. I look at this game, and I take this as the first 3 quarters. I watched a team in the Vikings that looks like a Super Bowl contender to me, and it looks like they have an MVP candidate at quarterback. I didn't look. I was as hard as anybody on Sam Darnold in the offseason. I said, what are they even doing? They wasted their money on this guy. He's not an NFL quarterback. Well, he is. He's playing as well as anybody. They led 28-7 after 3 quarters. Very reminiscent of the 49ers game a couple weeks ago when the 49ers had 7 points after 3 quarters. When the Texans had 7 points after 3 quarters. They got to finish games better. You don't want the fourth quarter like that, obviously. But I look at it like the only points the Packers scored is when the Vikings muffed a punt at their own 3-yard line. Like that's it. They could get nothing going. Brian Flores' defense was tipping every pass Jordan Love threw up there. Sam Darnold was just hitting everybody. Jordan Addison's back in the lineup. He scores 2 touchdowns. If we just eliminate what we thought about the Vikings in the preseason, this is a Super Bowl contender. Like they have the best set of quality wins you could have. I mean, to really dominate against the 49ers, the Texans, and the Packers, we thought all 3 of those teams could be Super Bowl contenders this year. Well, if you dominate all 3 of those teams, doesn't that make you a Super Bowl contender? So we didn't see this coming necessarily, but if you start to get rid of your preconceived notions of the Vikings, they have all the ingredients, man. And they haven't even, they missed 2 games with Addison. They haven't had TJ Hawkinson yet. Ivan Pace has been out. Dallas Turner missed last week. It's not like they've been some picture of health. There's a really, really good, well-coached football team. And so, yeah, your points of Jordan Love, I just look at it like, I just kind of throw it out a little, the whole thing, because he was rusty coming off the injury for the first 3 quarters. Brian Flores' defense is screwing with everybody right now. Got hot in the fourth quarter. You'll take some momentum out of that. Jordan Love will feel better next game. To me, this game was all about the Vikings and them announcing to the world, hey, you thought we were some cute early season story, but we're not going anywhere. All of this is not a fluke. The Vikings are a very, very good football team this year.
To your point, look at who they've beaten. The 49ers, the Texans, the Packers in 3 straight weeks. Those are 3 teams that right. And those are 3 teams that are getting a ton of street cred, right? Those are 3 teams that we believe are good teams this year. So to get those wins the way they got those wins, you're right. I mean, this just keeps rolling. Like, there is, at this point, it's such an oversimplification, but I always look at, like, what are teams that you look on the schedule and say, man, that's going to be a tough win. Like, and as we get into a month into the season, we have a pretty good idea if the opposing fan base is going to look at that one and be like, well, that's probably an L. That's where I am with the Vikings. I don't think that there's any reason, you look at their upcoming game against the Jets, and we'll get to the Jets in a minute, but, I don't see any reason to believe that the Jets are a better team than the Vikings. I look across the board. The Vikings have done everything you can ask them to do. And as we said last week, they're incredibly well, their head coach is obviously brilliant. They're incredibly well coached. Their defensive coordinator is one of the best in the league at this point. So that defense is going to show up. And Sam Darnold continues to play really good, efficient football. And that's just
like, do you think this is repeatable for Sam Darnold? Like, there is something in the back of my mind saying, I know you're saying all these things and you're making them out to be a Super Bowl team, but yet if we are sitting here in 3 weeks on the Sunday night show and being like, well, Sam Darnold turned it over 4 times, like, it wouldn't surprise me that much, but I don't know. Like, it's such an odd story that this guy who was left for dead by a couple teams in bad situations, all of a sudden he's signed to be a bridge guy, basically. Keep the seat warm until J.J. McCarthy gets in. all of a sudden he's playing at an MVP level? Like, do you think this keeps up all season? Like, at the end of the season, let me simplify it. At the end of the season, do you think Sam Darnold gets MVP votes?
Yes. And I think the reason
I
say
have to say that, right?
Because at this point, we need to change. We need to shift our conversation about Kevin O'Connell, their head coach, into the same realm that we talk about, I don't know, Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah,
and my belief is that there are certain guys you can say, hey, this is such a good fit. And we've talked about the fact that the second year in a Shanahan system, everything sort of clicks. Well, I think what you've got is Sam Darnold in a Shanahan system using similar language where it is clicked, and it's clicked with the head coach that knows how to get the most out of him. I don't right now think the conversation about Sam Darnold is going to end up much different than the conversation is about Brock Purdy. We're going to sit here and say, hey, certain coaches and certain quarterbacks just get the best out of each other. And I think the Vikings have found that. We have plenty of football left ahead of us, but right now I'd be shocked because to me, you got a coach that is just whispering the right things in the ear of the quarterback at the right times, and it has him playing really smart, efficient, clean football while he's also still pushing the ball down the field, and he's doing it with one of the best wide receivers in the game. And I heard C-Mac talking about, some of the 50-50 balls that are up there. Quarterbacks are damned if they do and damned if they don't. When you have Justin Jefferson, if you don't throw a 50-50 ball out there, then everybody's going to turn around and say, well, why aren't you utilizing your weapons? I think right. Sam Darnold's doing exactly what Kevin O'Connell is teaching him to do. And this is an example of, I don't think with any other quarterback on any other team, Sam Darnold would be a dominant player in the NFL. I think on this team, with this coach, with this staff, this is what makes Sam Darnold dominant.
Yeah. And you talk about, it's funny with the 50-50 balls for Justin Jefferson. Actually, nothing's a 50-50 ball. It's always a better than 50-50 for Justin. But that touchdown, the ball got he's covered as well as he could be covered as an NFL cornerback covering a receiver. And it kind of hits him in the chest, and he just sticks onto it. I watched it replay 10 times. So I'm like, how on earth did he catch that? That's one of those Justin Jefferson plays. So when you got a guy like that, and again, I said this before, but I need to repeat it. Jordan Addison has missed half of their season so far. TJ Hawkinson, when healthy, one of the 5 best tight ends in football, has not played yet. Who knows if he's going to be fully, recovered from the ACL, but this is a team that can actually get better. Their offense, and especially as Kevin O'Connell gets more comfortable with what Sam Darnold can and can't do, and what, Sam gets his timing down better with Justin, and all these things, I don't see this falling off. I see them getting better. Because why wouldn't they get better with Addison kind of back in the flow and when Hawkinson comes back? It's an exciting team because it's one of those rare teams that comes out of absolutely nowhere. I thought they'd finish last in the division. I'm not going to fool anybody here. I wasn't high on them coming into the season, and yet here they are. And legitimately, if you just look at the film, they're one of the best, if not the best NFL team so far.
And we're a couple of weeks away from the Vikings-Lions matchup that I cannot wait for. It will teach us much about both teams.